Well, hello, and welcome to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast. I'm your host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are in the middle of a series called Conference Chats. We are gearing up for our summer conference. Our theme this year is for the love of learning, nourishing the mother, and strengthening the home. Our day is going to be broken up by equip classes and experience classes, and these conversations are all featuring our presenters that are going to be sharing at this year's conference. And so I am excited to introduce to you guys, if you haven't met Beth Howard. She is a gem. She's going to be sharing 2 times at the conference, and she's going to be teaching an equip class on mother's education. So welcome to the podcast, Beth.
Hi, Elise. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, if you are new to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast, this is actually the second time that I get to talk with Beth, which is such a treat. So if you missed our first conversation, I want to encourage you, I'll put a link, but make sure you go back and listen to that conversation. It is so rich and it was so encouraging for me. I got so much out of it and I've just been so inspired since that conversation. So I encourage you, go back and listen to it. And I was so excited that Beth accepted the invitation to come speak this year at the conference. As we were planning, we knew we wanted to do something to encourage moms to focus on their own education. And I was like, okay, there is absolutely nobody else that can speak on this than Beth, because she is so passionate about it. So Beth, just tell us a little bit about who you are and just your journey into home educating and how you became passionate about mother's education.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the bite size because I could talk in the introduction for an hour and I won't do that. So I am currently homeschooling 2 children. I have a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old, a daughter and a son, and they are wonderful, delightful human beings. And we live in Colorado, on the Front Range, just south of Denver. We've been homeschooling since my daughter was, literally a baby. Was so incredibly excited and enthusiastic to homeschool, and I was bored and needed something to do with this toddler. So I printed out a bunch of worksheets and I laminated them and I cut things out, and we had units on units, and it was not Charlotte Mason, but a really delightful little season of our lives. And then I found For the Children's Sake and I read it, and my whole world opened up to what education could be. And we've been on the Charlotte Mason track really since she was probably 4 is when I really started studying Charlotte Mason. So it's been a very long time now. So now I have middle schooler and first grader. And then about 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic pain disease. And I was going through a pretty difficult time, just medically, emotionally, mentally. All of it was just really bad. And I know I say that as I smile because I've become desensitized to telling this part of the story. And in that season of being couch bound and really only having enough energy to read some books to my then 3rd grader, I think, I was scrolling my phone a lot. And what I found was scrolling your phone when you're already experiencing chronic pain and anxiety and depression actually makes things a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I've started reading PR articles from Charlotte Mason when those were being produced, and I came across one about a mother's education and this program that she put together for mothers who were sending their children to the Ambleside schools. And she would put out a book list or topics that you could read under to fully educate yourself. And you could write in your exam review questions, and she would read them. And I found it so delightful that I decided I was going to take what I was doing for my daughter and what Charlotte Mason was recommending for mothers and implement it for my own sake. And about a year later, I came out of my chronic pain flare. I had gone through all of the MRI processes. I'd started losing my vision, but it had stabilized. And I wrote everything down and started sharing about a mother's education. And I have not stopped talking about it since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I just love, that you took what was a really, awful season and there was good that came out of
Yeah.
it because you were able to kind of dig your way out of, probably just feeling absolutely miserable.
Yeah, yeah. It was having like rich living books and beauty for my own sake. It was like this rope that was hanging into the pit that I was able to like grab onto.
That's amazing. Okay, so now fast forward, I guess it's been like 4-ish years since that
Yeah.
point. You've just become so passionate and honestly such a light and a voice to so many moms around the thought of our own education. And you're sharing that on social media. You have your newsletter, and then you're even offering courses and different community aspects that moms can make that desire and that thought a reality.
Yes.
And so I love it. We're just gonna dive right into it. I was flipping back through some of your Instagram posts because, like I said, I just love them. So I'm gonna read this one to you guys.
Okay.
And I will give you a little disclaimer that this is um it's a little cutthroat, but it's good. It's cutthroat. When I read it, I was like, "Oh, dang, it kinda hurts." It's because you're telling the truth, honestly.
Yes.
Like, that was my thought was like, "Oh, this kinda hurts, but it's a good hurt." And so I'm gonna read it and just we'll discuss it and unpack it from there, okay? So, you say, "You cannot be a guide, philosopher, and friend to your children in your homeschool if you are not being nourished. The teacher who allows his scholars the freedom of the city books is at liberty to be their guide, philosopher, and friend, and is no longer the mere instrument of forcible intellectual feeding." And that's from Philosophy of Education. And you said Charlotte Mason describes the mother teacher as guide, philosopher, and friend, putting her students' feet in the cities of books, and it is a high calling. A guide must know the terrain. A philosopher must wrestle with ideas. A friend must have something real to offer. If you are only managing lessons, correcting work, and keeping up with schedules, then you will find you may begin to feel worn out. Not because you're incapable, you are more than capable, but you may be underfed. You cannot guide where you are not going. You cannot discuss what you are not considering, and you cannot offer friendship from an empty mind. The mother's education is not extra, it is what sustains the role. If you want to lead your children well, you too need to be fed a feast of living ideas. And I don't know, I guess when I got to the point where it says, you can't just manage the work, correct the lessons, keep the schedule, I think maybe it was like I felt cut because, that's I've probably been there before. I probably
Uh-huh.
identified with that was like, "Oh, ouch, that hurts." But it's a good hurt. And so,
Yeah.
um, I think this just perfectly describes why a mother's education is so important. We can't lead where we're not going. If we've
Yeah.
never been there before, we're not truly leading our children. So yeah, you just talk about what was your thought process behind sharing that?
Yeah. So funny enough, my thought process behind that post was when my one of my children, and it's the one who can read. I can't I have one of each and there's like such a large age gap. But thankfully my daughter offers a lot of grace. And she made up a narration one time because I had not read the book.
No.
I like handed her the book. I was like, go
Good
forth and
girl.
read, dear child. And apparently she too did not read that chapter. She was just like, yeah, this happened. And I can laugh it off because this is if we look at the Parents Are Peacemakers book, this is a trick. It's not a bad habit. It didn't need to be it's a
Right.
trick.
You're just gonna say
Um but it took me a minute. I was like, I feel like that's not correct. And I
mm,
like skimmed through and I was like, a child could not read it. And if I'm not engaged,
mm,
I don't know.
yeah.
Children spot hypocrisy faster than anything else on the planet. This idea that do as I say, not as I do, especially as parents, has become so prevalent of,
Mm,
you need to cut down your screen time. We need to cut down our kids' screen time. We need to not expose them to twaddle because that will and I'm saying this like sarcastically, that will damage their whole literary life. And we can talk about that a different day. But then we aren't actually doing for ourselves what we do or require of our children. And in the teaching world, if I were in the classroom, I have my background in education, and I was not engaged in the curriculum, in the text, in the understanding of the process, and just passing it off to my children, I would have parents upset with me.
Yeah.
I'm homeschooling because I believe that I can offer my children a better education than what is out there for this point in their lives. But that means, as the mother teacher, I do need to step up and hold these high expectations of myself. And it's not these expectations of perfection. I'm not saying every homeschooling mom needs to be perfect and you need to be reading philosophy and Aristotle and Plutarch all the time. But we do need to understand what a living book is by engaging with living books for our own sake. Because eventually we are hopefully raising lifelong learners. But what they might see is that, well, my parents never read. My parents never write anything down. My parents never engage with a hobby, because there literally are a million reasons to not do those things.
Yeah.
But what are we teaching our children when they come to adulthood? That education is for school purposes only. And when you become an adult and there's nothing else to learn about or no reason to learn, we just let that education go.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I love that. So we really do need to model what we're expecting
Yeah.
of our children. That's like simply put. But okay, so yes, 100%. And then also, because I don't want to negate anything that was already said, because I 100% agree with it. I think also too, um, like we have brains and we have,
Yeah.
we're made up of as intellectual beings. And so like, just like if I didn't feed my body, like there's going to be symptoms,
Mhm.
there's going to
Yeah.
be signs that I need to do something about that. And I think there's also signs that, we're malnourished when it comes to feeding our intellect and
Yes.
thinking and pondering those living ideas. And I think that honestly, like our world, there are lots of signs that we are malnourished in our
Yes.
intellectual, so
And we would not sit on the couch for 18 years and expect like our muscles aren't going to atrophy, or our heart, like the heart function isn't going to go down. So for a mom to say, okay, for the next 18 years, I'm going to put my brain on hold and I'm not going to engage intellectually. And I know no mother is intentionally doing this, but our brains atrophy. Like, we need to continue to be thinking and learning and experiencing new things, because we're people. Like, your personhood doesn't end once you get through schooling and now you're an adult and you have to go be or like do real adult things. The beauty of adulthood and being like a born person as a mother, it's like, I want to read about the Titanic. That's what I'm going to read about because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
interesting to me.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Okay, so the tagline for the conference is nourishing the mother and strengthening the home. And I knew that whenever we were, kind of figuring out like what's the theme for this year. And I was like, I know I want it to be something about nourishing the mother. And so I was so glad when just through brainstorming sessions we came up with strengthening the home, because I'm really passionate about that. But how do you feel like those two thoughts coincide?
Yeah. So just like, I think the common phrase we use is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. But I truly believe you cannot run a strong home with a malnourished mother. We would not expect an athlete to go and run a marathon having not eaten that day or fueled their body well in the weeks leading up to it. But we often don't talk about the nourishment of a mother and what that really looks like in order to have a strong foundational home. A mom who feels overwhelmed and overstressed and taxed by the little minute mundane things, I she she's going to have a harder time, governing her emotions, governing the way she speaks to her children. Her will is going to start to weaken and fracture. And how can you raise up children with a strong will if your will is struggling or your habits are struggling? So the way we fuel our minds and our bodies, like that directly impacts the foundation and the function of our home.
It's so good. I love that. And one thing that I was thinking about the other day, and this might be, maybe I'm not the best, I shouldn't be this person to say this, but I'm like, okay, yes, we're putting on a conference and we're creating space for moms to come and to focus on themselves. The different hats we wear as far as we are home educators, so we need to be equipped in how we do that. And then also as individuals and as learners, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm really grateful for a conference because I do believe that those kind of give us the jolt that we need to,
Mhm.
maybe feel renewed and refreshed. But um that shouldn't be the only thing that we do. Like
Yeah.
there's a time and a place for conferences, and obviously I believe in them because I'm hosting one, but I think that there needs to be some, other things in place that continue to sustain us
Yeah.
throughout the year and throughout our days. And so, that's probably a good place to talk about your class and about, what moms are going to experience from your class. Like obviously they're going to get that jolt that they might need to feel renewed and refreshed. But I believe that your class is going to give them tools also that they can take home and implement, you know, the days after.
Yes. Yeah. So, one of the things we will be talking about is just the history of mother's education and its place in the modern homeschool world and the
Mm.
modern Charlotte Mason family. But how do you set aside time in order to do this? How do you choose from your, 50 plus stack of TBR and all of
Mhm.
these things to read? Like when we break down choosing our books, how do we pick a stiff read? How do we pick a novel that's just delightful and enjoyable and has living ideas but isn't exactly twaddle? Or an armchair read? How do we break out, these parts of our days? And part of it is going to be like looking at our homes as a whole and saying, okay, these are pain points to accomplishing a mother's education or building out this habit of self education in my life.
Mhm.
And some of those are, phone usage, or sometimes
Yeah.
it's extra activities that you might need to say no to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of like practicality and reflection, and then working through like what do we want? Like what type of mother do we hope to grow into in the next 5 years, 10 years? And that's not saying like I want to be the mom who, bakes sourdough. And maybe you do. Like maybe you do want to just bake a really awesome sourdough loaf this year, and like that's a your handicraft, but
Mhm.
like that's a good thing to do. And how do we work out these goals, but like measurable goals to say this is the curriculum I'm building for myself and how I'm going to implement it with my family. And then conversations we can take back to our husbands and say, these are areas that I want to learn and grow in, and these are the ways it's going to benefit me and our family. Because it's really easy as a mom to say I don't have time for that
Yeah.
and to cut it. Sometimes we do have time for that. We just, as my husband says, what are you not going to do?
Yeah, that's a better question to ask because there is time. There's time for sure. It's just if we're, I guess, willing and then like our eyes are open to see like, okay, this is something that I want to do. How can I make it work? I think is
Yeah.
the question we have to ask ourselves.
And then working through like, if we are going off of Mason's pillars that education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life, then we wouldn't say a mother's education is just your book list.
Yeah.
That's really not what it's about. I mean, you can read 100 books this year, and that is wonderful, but it's truly the engaging with the ideas. How do
Mhm.
we take this engagement of ideas in a practical way?
Mhm.
So bringing in other aspects of perhaps it's nature journaling or nature collaging. We don't have to brush straw if we really don't want to. Like we don't. I
Bring
I
back
have
those feels
told
from when we were in like seventh, eighth grade.
I know if taking watercolor set to the pond with your toddlers to try to nature journal is going to wind up with a toddler in the pond, don't do that. And I'm saying this, all of the things I talk about are like from experience. I have ended up with a toddler in the it's a shallow pond. It was
Yeah, yeah.
fine. But
Everyone's still alive and well.
they're good. Yeah, they're fine. Um But, taking a picture and printing the picture and putting it in a nature journal and writing something is still engaging with the ideas in a practical sense for a mom who might have other things to do today.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I love that you're going to give people strategy no matter her season. Cause
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that can maybe be where people kind of put up their shields when they hear about mother's education is like, I have young kids. I don't have time. My kids are an extracurricular or, we're in high school and it's hard, like there's
Yeah.
always going to be things that are required of us that, can give us a reason to not.
Yeah.
And so we just have to be creative in figuring out, no, how can I?
Yeah, and I've told moms too, if you have like babies, like tiny, tiny babies, and you are wondering how to do a narration with a tiny, tiny baby for your own education, narrate to your baby. They don't care what you're saying to them. And the language acquisition is so good.
Mm,
I mean, they say, speech pathologists, doctors will say, like, you should narrate to your baby, tell your baby what you're doing today. And
mm,
that's how they learn the language. Like, you're building their vocabulary. If you read, if you are interested in the Charlotte Mason philosophy and you have tiny, tiny humans, you could read it out loud to them. I mean, even if they don't pay, even if they're 6 months old and not paying attention, you could read it out loud to them. You're helping their vocabulary and
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. And it's probably helping you to stay engaged with the book.
yes, let me tell you, sweet little baby,
Yes. Let me tell you what Charlotte said.
what your future holds.
Yes. This is what we get to look forward to. What I hear you saying is that moms have to look forward to in your session, kind of just reevaluating what their own educational journey looks like and what they're
Yeah.
hoping to move toward. Like,
Yes.
there's always growth for all of us. So, like, what is it you're hoping to move towards? And then kind of giving them more of an understanding of what Miss Mason really saw mother's education looking like and kind
Mhm.
of giving them their next step
Yeah.
in their journey. Is that kind of what you're hoping people will get out of your session?
Yes, exactly. More than just you should go home and read 50 books this year. Like you can have a well-educated mother who reads 2 books and engages with these ideas thoughtfully, and you can have a well-educated mother that reads 100 books. It actually isn't like it's not quantity. It is how you're
Mhm.
engaging with the ideas.
That's really
Yeah, so fostering and then how does this for moms, like, how does this allow you to facilitate being a guide, philosopher, and friend to your children? How does it help you facilitate atmosphere, discipline in life? Because
Mhm.
we can say, well, the atmosphere of education is like how cute your homeschool room looks like. Like, is it clean and adorable? It's like, oh, it's actually a lot to do with like moms and our habits and
Yeah.
how we're able to facilitate that and work towards that with our own children.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Guys, oh my gosh, like seriously, this has been like, I don't even know, 30-minute conversation. I already just feel so encouraged and challenged at the same time. And I can't imagine like people who are going to have more time to sit in your classes, they'll get to meet you if they come in person and get to talk with you more. So, I am just looking forward to July and just getting to learn from you some more. Thank you so much, Beth, for just um, one, like bringing people into your journey in mother's education and what you're learning. And thank you for turning your pain into purpose because that's exactly what you've done. And I am just again so excited for people to get to learn from you at the conference. So, and if you guys don't follow Beth already, go follow her on Instagram. She's the Charlotte Mason Home is her handle, and she's always posting such great thoughts and content. So make sure you guys go follow her. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. If you've not gotten your ticket yet for the conference, make sure you go to charlottemason.com/conference. You can come in person in Tulsa, or you can also join us virtually. You'll have access to all of the sessions and the replays of all the sessions. So it is like as good as it gets, like for attending in person or virtually. You can use the code podcast for a little discount. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Conference Chats. Remember what Charlotte said, that the only true education is self-education. So we're never going to stop learning. We're We're never going to stop growing, and I'll see you on the next episode.